I was frozen in astonishment. The girl looked perfectly normal, just like an ordinary human, but I still could not utter a single word. It's too late to run. Did I say something wrong? It took a monumental effort to answer. Yeah. What? Oh, nothing. I mean, I've just arrived. I replied quickly, beginning to worry that I might have blurted out something wrong. Alright then, welcome. I'll go get them. Fine. They're in my cabin, in the desk drawer. I headed to Olga Dmitrievna's place. Why did I agree anyway? Then again, what choice did I have? There's nothing to do here at night. At least I'll have some fun. But my mind kept nagging me about this not being a good time for fun. On the other hand, if there actually exists a camp with pioneers, then it must be someone's doing. And even if it's not true, then the most logical thing is to seek answers here, not in the forest or fields. But at this very moment, the answer is going to play cards. I opened the door with my own key and went inside. To my surprise, there were no cards inside. Instead, it was full of cups, forks, and knives, plates, scotch tape, scissors, rubber gloves, a piece of rope. Wait, what the fudge? Forks and knives, scotch tape, scissors, rubber gloves, piece of rope. Okay, a few things taken out of context could, raise a few suspicions. But altogether, it seems like pretty normal camp supplies. I think, never been to a camp. Everything except the playing cards. Maybe I should just look in the closet? It was full of Olga Dmitrievna's clothes, but a small drawer with a keyhole at the top caught my eye. I pulled, but it didn't open. I wonder if she's hiding something. Forcing it open wasn't the best idea, even if the cards were in there. I was just turning to leave as I remembered something. Slavia forgot her keys yesterday. They're here. What if... For a moment I hesitated, but then approached the closet and started picking a key for the lock. Of course, it would be strange to expect the result. Indeed, why would Slavia carry a key for Olga Dmitrievna's personal chest? But to my surprise, another key slid into the lock and turned a few times without a problem. Suddenly the door squeaked behind me. Oh, come on, just give me a few minutes. I jumped and turned around, but there was nobody in the cabin. Was it the wind? I carefully looked outside. Not a single person in sight. Perhaps it was nothing, but I still felt uneasy. I even looked in the bushes by the cabin, but then decided to go back and seek out all the dark secrets of our chief. Semyon, what's taking you so long? Yes. With shaking hands, I turned the key and jerked it out of the lock. Slavia came closer. My keys. I thought I'd lost them. Where did you find them? They were in the bushes. Outside. Found them just now. Shall we go? I wanted to get out as fast as possible and preferably forget about my attempt to violate someone's privacy. Yeah, that's not very cool, is it? When I got back, Olga Dmitrievna informed me. Sorry, I remembered that the cards were in Slavia's cabin. She fetched them while you were looking. I looked at Slavia. She meekly smiled. Come on, you guys, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. Slavia and Olga Dmitrievna went inside. The bus stop. Somehow for the second day in a row I found myself at this place. Maybe subconsciously I feel that the bus will be waiting for me here to take me back to the real world. Very unlikely. On the other hand, why not? It got dark already. I was just standing there and gazing at the night sky. Astronomy has never attracted me so much as astronautics. It always has been more interesting to look at the pictures of far constellations, nebula and galaxies made by artists than to try and figure out how to measure angular velocities and masses of stars. But certainly, I would be able to find the Great Bear constellation. But if I get lost in snow forest, my only way to find a way out would be that little knowledge about moss growing on the north side of a tree. However, I still don't think that would help me to get out. After a couple of minutes, I headed back to the camp. Okay, but just a little bit. That's the spirit. She reached out her hand to me. We were standing in the middle of the dancing crowd. Well, in fact, it was me who was standing. Slavia was warming up, swaying to the beat. I was already blaming myself for agreeing to this uncomfortable proposal. Okay, here am I, on the road again, and now what? I examined the dancing pioneers around me. Nope, I am not prepared for this. The music stopped abruptly. Some people were still dancing under the momentum, but the majority stopped. Don't panic. The leader went to the DJ's panel and adjusted something there. Next song, ladies, invite gentlemen. I looked at Slavia. She stretched out her hand to me with a smile. You shouldn't refuse a girl. Wait a minute. What is this? They gave her the same expression as Lena. Well, just so you know, it fits Lena more. We danced for a few. Also, I want to point out that as far as I'm concerned, Lena's good ending is canon. I don't care what happens in the rest of the story, in the rest of the game, in the rest of the routes. Lena's good ending is canon. If only for me, in my own little universe. We danced for a few minutes. Her chest heaved faster and her face blushed more and more. Slavia stared into my eyes. I tried to look away at the dancing pioneers, or at my feet, or somewhere else. It was a strange feeling. My whole body shuddered from time to time, but it was a pleasant shudder, without any hint of uneasiness or shame. My mind became miraculously calm. I realized that I didn't want to let this girl go, and I am ready to dance with her forever. Hopping next to us, Uliana stopped for a moment and smirked. Maybe I was seeing things, but I couldn't get rid of the thought that that insolent girl is trying to hint at something. I made a frightening face, but she was already gone. Something wrong? Slavia asked quietly. Everything's fine. I mean, everything's great. I hadn't started stammering yet, but I was about to. You're so tense. A little, I said honestly. Boys don't like to dance. Guess so. She didn't say anything, just smiled. The song eventually finished. I was still holding Slavia, but she easily slipped out of my grasp. Thank you for the dance. I should thank you. I just stood and stared at her for some time. The next track started playing. One more? No, I think I'll rest a little. I tried to leave the square as soon as possible. I don't remember how I ended up at the beach. Why did I run away? It looked exactly like running away. The dance was nice and Slavia was pleased. But something wasn't right. I felt restless just thinking about the ball. Maybe I just lost my grasp on the situation and got emotional? And that happens rarely. No, That happens often. To you. I always tried to behave and calmly Homeboy, why you lying? Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie. But did I manage it this time? I sat on the sand and looked at the river. The full moon was hanging far above the water. Memories overwhelmed me. I am 6 years old. Me and my father are fishing. I cast my fishing rod clumsily and wait. 1 minute, 2, 10, no fish bite. Meanwhile, my father gets one after another. What, do I have to do Semyon as a 6-year-old? How do I do a 6-year-old? How do you do that? He explains, but now I don't remember all the details. I am 9 years old. A dark, incomplete building near our country house full of ghosts, vampires, or maybe just hobos. An unstable wooden ladder to the second floor, hanging above the abyss. The hole to the basement. Wait, what? 9 years old. A dark, incomplete building near our country house full of ghosts, yeah. An unstable wooden ladder to the second floor hanging above the abyss to the hole to the basement. I'm scared, but I still climb up and down this ladder every day. A brick falls on my foot and I lose a toenail. I am 12 years old. My first victory in a video game tournament. We play a console fighting game. An imaginary audience applauds my astonishing victim. Great job. My astonishing victory. I am 15 years old. I score several wonderful goals with my heel and a wonderful shot from 30 meters away right into the upper corner. I am 17 years old. My first love. Transient images. A shadow slipping away and vanishing in the city gaze. I can't catch her among the buildings and corners. The following memories became more clear but far less vivid. The images of my childhood and youth that I saw were unclear. They lacked details and I couldn't quite see the faces of people. Sometimes they just looked like a lot like a canvas, covered with spilled paint. But the feelings of those hazy images were so much warmer than those of my more recent memories. There you are. Oh my. See, I'm telling you, this game just has incredibly beautiful artwork, and I think this might be the best one so far, or at least one of the best so far. I gotta appreciate this without the text. I love the way this is drawn. This is incredible, and look at the moon, the sky, the ocean. It's Slavia. Stunning. It's just stunning. Slavia leaned over me. I didn't get a fright. Why did you leave so soon? Just felt like being alone for a bit. It was like I hid in a shell. There was no outer world for me, and I responded the same way to all stimuli. I was like the three monkeys. Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Isn't it just beautiful here? Slavia looked at the river. Yeah, it is. How about one more dance? No thanks, I'm fine. Deep inside I knew I shouldn't be so sharp with Slavia, but I was like a puppet on the string, forced to say things I would never have said under other circumstances. What are you thinking about? Nothing. You can't think about nothing. She pouted her lips, but smiled right after that, letting me know she wasn't offended. You're always thinking about something even if you don't notice it. Maybe. So, what are you thinking about now? About owls. Homeboy, me too. I said the first thing that came to my mind. Why owls? She laughed. I don't know. Have you ever seen any owls? Of course I have. What a silly question. Do you like them? They're just a bird like any other. No, they're square shaped. And it's funny. Nightbird, Slavia specified. Yes, a nightbird. Square bird. A nightbird. I imagined an owl, a little feathered box with huge blinking eyes. Are you a night owl? What? You know, there are day larks and night owls. Some like to get up early and some like to sleep in. Her words brought me back to reality. I pictured my dusty room full of junk, a mountain of unwashed plates on the table, guitar rotting in the corner, necktie hanging from the lamp, and the pinnacle of all this, the heap of dirty socks under the bed. I was indeed a night owl. Night was my time. But somehow I was managing to get up early in this camp. I know. So what are you? A night owl, I guess. I like to sleep. And I am a day lark. The earlier you get up, the more you can do during the day. There is really nothing urgent for me to do, so I don't see any difference between day and night. It's just quieter and calmer during the night. Slavia, don't you have any problems at all in your life? What do you mean? She wondered. You're always so joyful, so ready to help. So eager to start doing something. Yeah, I know the type. It's like nothing can upset you. Why? She laughed. I'm just an ordinary person. That's right. Just an ordinary person in an ordinary place. I sometimes think that I'm the strange one here. Don't you like the camp? I don't mean only the camp. In the previous... I stumbled. I shouldn't speak so frankly even with her. At home too. I think that I'm not like the others. It's not where I belong. Stop that. It's silly to think so. I was closing myself off from the rest of the world just a moment ago, and now I was opening my heart to this girl. What's happening to me? No, really. You wouldn't pay any attention to me under any other circumstances. I'm so different from you. I'm lazy, unsociable, and have no outstanding talents. I would be the last person you would notice in the crowd of a large city. Though for me, even going outside is rare. Semyon, you scare me. She looked at me seriously. I got embarrassed but didn't avert my eyes. Am I wrong? Of course. You are you. There is no other person like you. You should just have some self-esteem and patience. You can do anything. No doubt about it. I looked at the sky. If only everything could be as simple as you say. It's not difficult at all. Let's start right now. Start what? Changing. Just like that? How do you imagine we can do that? We should do something useful. For instance? Well, she thought for a moment. Let's clean up the square. The ball is already finished. Just the two of us? We can make it if we try. Would we be able to do all the work? There isn't that much to do. The first step is the most important. I can't argue with her on that point, but taking down the lighting from trees in the dark, moving heavy audio equipment and sweeping, none of that was on my to-do list. But I didn't know how to nicely refuse her. Maybe we can do it tomorrow? With everyone? Why put it off until tomorrow? Wouldn't it be wonderful to stand in a clean square during the lineup? First of all, I don't even like lineups in general. Hey, I understand you, but this is too much. Slavia thought for a moment. Yes, looks like you're right. Even I can be right sometimes, and she can be wrong. Then she stretched and yawned. Let's just sleep on it then. A nice idea, but I wanted to talk more. Isn't it too early? No, Slavia objected critically. You'll sleep all day tomorrow then. Tell me a bedtime story then. I blurted out the first thing that came to mind. I know only those I read in books. You must know them too. Maybe I do. What a failure. Shall we go? She stretched out her hand to me. I'll stay here for a while longer. I need some fresh air. You can go. Good night. Good night. Slavia ran away. I wanted to enjoy my total defeat first. I couldn't stand being with her even a minute longer after that brilliant idea. Bedtime stories? What in the world? That's how the things are. You try to have a casual chat with a girl and it turns into a complete flop. I stared into the night sky. The stars, those small lights of distant suns, blinked perkily as if laughing at me. I turned over and buried my face in the sand. After a moment I realized that it was another one of my bright ideas, about on par with asking for a bedtime story. That was another one of my bright ideas. I stood up, spitting grit, and went to the leader's cabin. My back itched all the way. Not only my back, my whole body. No wonder. I haven't had a bath for several days. While it is really hot here during the daytime, so you sweat like a pig. I should find some soap and a towel. I can find everything in Olga Dmitrievna's cabin. After a couple of minutes, I was again at the square with my bag of bathing accessories. I have to find a bathhouse now. It was easy. The building was just on the edge of the forest. It really is the best place for a bathhouse. I think there was no Blair Witch inside, but the lights were still on. And whose bright idea is that to have a bath at midnight? I muttered below my breath. There is only one problem. Is it a boy or a girl? In the first case, we could just have a bath together without any worries. Well, not a bath and not together. Never mind. I am not fond of public baths, but I can cope with them this time. In the second case, I would have to wait or to scratch myself the whole night through. Who knows how long I have to wait? I peeped into the window. Oh, that's never a good idea. But couldn't see anything because of the steam. Suddenly, Slavia appeared right before me as if from a thick fog. Naturally, she was naked, just like anyone else in the bath would be. Dumbstruck, I stared at her. I had never seen a naked girl so close, even through glass. Little personal there, little personal. Nerve impulses traveled from my eyes down my body. It seemed like I couldn't leave my observation point no matter what, even if a war broke out. But Slavia didn't notice me. She was washing herself leisurely, rinsing her head, rubbing her body with a sponge and pouring water from the bucket on herself. Then she started to wash her hair. I can't imagine how much time she needs to wash it completely, but minutes flew like seconds. That's how immersed I was in the sight. Finally, she finished washing, sighed with satisfaction, and walked to the door. I managed to come to my senses just at the moment she went into the changing room and left to hide in the nearby bushes. The best thing to do was to not tempt fate and leave, but I realized that too late. Slavia appeared on the porch after just a moment, stood there for a while, enjoying the night breeze, and walked in the direction of my hideout. I had a dozen excuses in my mind, but she went by without even looking at the bushes I was hiding in. Looks like I'm lucky. I cautiously got out and went to Olga Dmitrievna's cabin, completely forgetting my intention to have a bath. I was totally exhausted and wanted to just fall in bed and doze off. My eyes couldn't wait and were closing from time to time. It was dangerous even to blink. I still didn't know the camp well enough to walk there with my eyes closed. Suddenly Slavia appeared before me. Are you going to sleep? Well, yes. Right this moment I remembered the sight in the bathhouse and averted my eyes shyly. And you? Cleaning up. She took the broom out from behind her back. Slavia with a broom in the empty square at night looked like a witch from a children's fairy tale. What? Nothing. Is it really a good idea to clean the square after a bath? You idiot. And how do you know that I had a bath? You are so dumb. You are really dumb. I physically felt the fear taking over my body, cold sweat starting to run down my back. My thoughts froze so I couldn't think of any excuses. Slavia still stared at me in surprise. It looked like my life depends on this answer. Well, your hair is wet. Oh, you're right. I wanted the earth to swallow me up, so I would vanish from this world just as suddenly and irreversibly as I had vanished from mine. You going to have a bath too? Me? Well, Slavia looked at the bag in my hands. Yes, I am, so good night. I turned around and darted back towards the bathhouse. What a disaster. How shameful. I walked slowly, trying to curse myself for all that happened. I shouldn't have peeped in the first place. Yeah, in another universe that got you in trouble. But if I peep anyway, then I must pay more attention and think of an excuse beforehand. Oh my gosh. Oh, what? It didn't take much time to wash myself. It looked like the night made its own ball or possibly a concert. The stars were the lights, the birds and insects were an orchestra, an owl hooting somewhere was its director. The sound of wind in the trees was the applause of the audience. The night looked much more beautiful when you stand in the forest clean and fresh. Oh, hello, cat girl. Suddenly I heard a noise in the bushes nearby. I shivered but didn't get very scared. It may be a squirrel or another animal. Nevertheless, I should check it out. I went to the bushes, but didn't find anything or anyone suspicious. It just seemed... With a clean body and a calm spirit, I went to the leader's cabin. Olga Dmitrievna was already asleep. I went to bed without taking my clothes off and covered myself with a blanket. I couldn't fall asleep for a long time, remembering naked Slavia, whose image could not be eclipsed by thoughts about finding answers. You little weasel. I looked at Slavia. She paid no attention to me. Looks like it's not my day. Am I going there alone? Olga Dmitrievna looked thoughtful. Perhaps you're right. We'll go together tomorrow morning. Moving past the pioneer's cabin, down the forest path towards the abandoned camp, I set forth. Electronic told me that the old building was built immediately after the war. It looked like a kindergarten or like barracks I expected, and definitely could hold fewer pioneers than today's camp. It had been abandoned for about 20 years. It was now totally dark. The forest looked totally different that night. Mysterious shadows were hiding behind the trees, strange rustlings and the cries of night birds coming from everywhere, branches treacherously snapping under my feet. The full moon was shining, so I decided to save the battery and the flashlight. I'm sure I will need it sometime soon. The further I moved, the more unpleasant thoughts came into my head. I wasn't afraid of the dark at all. I didn't believe in ghosts or other mystical crap, but at the same time, during the last few days I'd encountered so many incomprehensible phenomena that against my own will, I started to read between the lines of the simplest things. Obviously, I felt exceptionally uneasy in the forest at night. Everywhere I looked, every shadow, every tree or bush looked like weird creatures, escaping straight from horror movies or from Stephen King novels. A branch seemed to be someone's hand, eager to grab your shoulder, a fallen log, someone's dead body, someone who failed to get out of the forest. In every gully I saw a bottomless abyss. If I had found myself in this forest under any other circumstances, without all these buses and pioneer camps, of course I would still feel uncomfortable, but then I would be able to explain everything with logic and be afraid of nothing except for owls and mice, of course. But at the moment there were more than enough reasons to fear. Despite all this, I reached the old camp without any adventures. I heard playful laughter, saw translucent children joyfully running and frolicking in the yard, a strict camp leader on the threshold, holding a basket with ripe apples in her hands, the old cleaning lady taking a nap in the shade. It sent chills down my spine. Of course, my imagination was just playing tricks, but the old camp itself was so similar to all the post-apocalyptic pictures I had seen that these visions were no surprise. I stood undecided for a long time before I dared to go further. After all, I'm here to find Shurik. Though I still don't get what he might be doing here. If he even is here. A boot somewhere nearby doesn't mean anything. However, if he was not eaten by wolves, this must be the only place where he might be hiding. I carefully crossed the yard, pushing the tall grass apart and trying not to bump into a jagged piece of metal. But I stopped in the doorway, hesitating. An impenetrable heavy darkness stared back at me from inside. Even the bright moonlight could not illuminate any object or even highlight a silhouette. My head was filled up with different thoughts that all said that it's better for me to not go any further and run away quickly. But I pulled myself together, turned on the flashlight and stepped over the threshold. There was a book on a table, faded with age. I flipped through a few pages. It was a story I had read a long time ago back in my childhood. Something about the war. Enemies destroyed the kindergarten and all of its kids hid in the little basement together with a bunch of adults while bombs were exploding up in the surface. I don't remember the end of the story, but as far as I remember, nobody died. Looking at the illustrations, all the emotions, fear, sadness, sympathy for the poor children, and the sense of hopelessness which I had experienced while reading this book came over me. It's strange that under exactly these conditions right here and now, that I found this book. Probably there is somebody who manages this ongoing story, who writes the scenario for this absurd play, who sews costumes for the local pioneers and creates sets like this abandoned camp. Okay, I apologize for the times that I go quiet. It's just sometimes the things he says, the things he muses, really hits me. Because well, you guys know why. To tell the truth, he is very talented. Attention is paid to even the most minor of details. Although this place was abandoned a long time ago, everything here seemed to be untouched. Of course, time didn't spare this camp, and so many years had often been visited by the locals. The perfect place for young people just hitting puberty. They could drink alcohol, indulge in amorous pleasures, or simply burn everything down just for fun. Electronic mentioned this place is full of legends. Legends of ghosts and devils living here. Take for example the story about the camp leader who committed suicide. In my world, nobody would believe that this could stop somebody. But in this reality, anything is possible. Certainly the fear didn't disappear, but I decided that since I'd come here, I was going to carry on to the end. The building was small, so it wasn't difficult to search it completely. But I didn't find any sign of Shirk. Maybe I should just call out to him? But on the other hand, maybe that's not such a good idea. Frustrated, I sat on a bench in the lobby and sighed. "Ghost, where are you?" I asked the camp. And all of a sudden, I noticed a strange depression in the corner. A small trapdoor. An adult would barely be able to squeeze through it. And it seemed to me that it had been recently opened as the dust was cleared around it. And so here's the part where I need to be scared. So Shirk went somewhere. What might be lurking beneath the trapdoor? A basement? What would he be doing there? I pulled open the hatch and pointed the flashlight into the darkness. There was a ladder going down a couple of meters, ending in a concrete floor. There was a low narrow corridor disappearing in the darkness. I hesitated for a long time. On the other hand, I had absolutely no desire to go down there, but on the other hand, if Shirk was really there, I swore loudly and began to descend. Downstairs it was so dark that even the flashlight didn't help much. A low ceiling, wires extending along the walls, broken lamps clad in iron bars. Oh dear. I've seen it all somewhere. I slowly started to move deeper into the dungeon. The path went down and after a few dozen meters ended at a stairway with high steps. Soon I found myself in front of a massive metal door. There was a sign painted on it. I looked closely and realized that it was a biohazard sign. No wonder, if the old camp was built after the war and it lasted until the 70s. So it's an ordinary bomb shelter and there's nothing to be afraid of. However, those thoughts made me even more scared. I made a decision and opened the door, which immediately shut with a sharp sound as soon as I stepped through the doorway. I shuddered strongly, my hands began to tremble and my vision dimmed. I regained consciousness after a few seconds and only then did I realize that apparently a strong spring was attached to the door. I found myself in a quite spacious room. In the beam of the flashlight I could see a bunk bed. Well, we kinda already know this stuff. Alright, well, we sorta know where it goes from here, but I did pick Slavia, so I don't know where she is. She probably shows up a little bit later. Don't know. But anyway, I'll leave it here and pick it up again in part 24? Because this would be 23. Yeah, okay. So until next time, thank you.